Hello everyone, this is Sonia from Sonyas Quilts and Embroidery, and as promised we are going to do a simple 9-patch quilt class starting today, and we will go every Tuesday until we get it completed. We are going to be doing a simple 9-patch like this. This is the one that I made last week. I have not made another one. I wanted to do it right along with you, so I don't have a quilt to show. I want to do it right along with you, and I don't want you to see the big picture until it is completely finished. Sometimes the big picture overwhelms people that want to learn how to quilt, so I don't want to overwhelm anybody with showing them the big picture start with. Excuse me. This is a take two video. I have already filmed all of this once, and I want to, I didn't like it, so I'm doing it again. I didn't get very far in, thank goodness. Alright, I got a bunch of chicken scratch on this paper. Sometimes the math confuses people. I just happen to be one that's been doing this for a long time, doing the math, figuring out how big you want something to be and how to get there. So I'm not going to bore you with all this chicken scratch. I've already done it for you. For a king size, we're going to need 49 of these. For a queen, we'll need 42 of these blocks. For a full size, we need 35, and a twin, we need 28 blocks. And I'm going to put this in the description box below, so you don't have to remember that. You can write it down if you want to, but it's going to be in the description box below. For a queen and a full, I'll go ahead and get a yard of 6. Well, I'm going to do mine in 6 different fabrics. I'm going to do it this block. I'm going to do a block with these two, this calico and this funny color green, and then I'm going to do a block with this and one other fabric, and that fabric I saved so I can show you how to cut these. I've already got 5 different ones cut out, but I'm going to do mine with 6. And so you would need 42 of, not just a lot, but you need 42 in total of these 9 patches for a queen, 49 for a king, 35 for a full, and 28 for a twin. The quilt is going to finish at about 102 inches on each size. If you want your king size quilt or any of your quilts to be another row longer, you'll be adding another row will add another 14.5 inches. So we would put it at about 116 inches long instead of 102. Okay, and if you are doing a king and you want to do 49 blocks, you're going to need about 1 yard and 2/3 of 6 different fabrics. And for a queen and a full, you need 1 yard of 6 fabrics. And for a twin, you need 2/3 of a yard of 6 different fabrics. Now, this is just for the blocks, and I'm not going to step ahead and get into any other fabrics just yet. I want to keep it just as simple as I possibly can. At first, I was not even going to figure out how much fabric you would need, simply because I have a lot of fabric. I can pretty much pull out any fabric that I want to, any color that I want to at any time. I find it on sale. I've actually bought some fabrics at the Goodwill store where somebody's grandmother had passed away. They donated all their fabrics to the Goodwill store, and I've gone in there and got some really old retro pieces that I really liked. And so I buy fabric at a lot of places, and if I see it, it's on sale, it's a good price, I buy it, and then I think about what I'm going to do with it later. So I did, at the last minute, try to scribble down how much fabric that you would need for this quilt. So if you want to do a 2-tone quilt, just say if you want to do all your blocks just alike, for a king you would need 6, let's see, I didn't figure that up. You would need 8 yards. You would need 4 yards of two different colors, so you would need 8 yards in total. For a queen and a full, you're going to need 3 of each for a total of 6. And for a twin, you're going to need 2 yards of each for a twin if you just want to do a 2-color block. But like I said, I'm going to do a six square, 3 different kinds of blocks, 3 different style of blocks. Not styles, but 3 different color combinations. So, alright, I've saved one fabric to show you how that we're going to cut that. Let me get my iron heated up. It stays plugged up all the time, but it kicks off after so many minutes of unused, so I have to simply turn it down and then flip it back up and it's ready to go. While I'm waiting on that to heat up, let me show you a couple other fabrics that I have that I pulled out that I just so happen to have. I don't know where they came from, but I thought they were pretty and I bought them. This is absolutely gorgeous orange with it's basically a color on color where you have the orange and then the light orange on top. And I think that would be so pretty with this green. And that would actually make a pretty baby quilt. If you were going to do a baby quilt like this, I would do probably only 6 squares. Well, let's see, maybe 9 squares. I guess 9 squares would make a nice size, crib size baby quilt. But I am going to do a queen size. That's the size I've chosen to do, so I need 42 of these. And I'm going to show you how fast these sew together. Okay, my iron's heated up. We're ready to ride over there. Okay, this fabric was sort of wrinkled. I tore a little piece off of it. I like to go with the natural fold of the fabric, the way you get it at the fabric store. I do not pre-wash my fabric simply because I don't have time to. I would need a whole laundry room just for that, and I don't. So I don't do that. What I suggest, if you do want to, if you want to wash your fabrics before you sew them or cut them, you can do that, but you're going to have a raveled up, tangled up threads along this cut edge, torn edge, and I just don't like that mess. So I keep mine simple, and this particular fabric right here does have a lot of sizing in it, which makes it stiff. It is 100% cotton quilting fabric, but it is kind of stiff compared to, say, this or the others. But once your quilt is completed and there's nothing on a ravel, then that's when I would wash it, if you wanted to wash it before you used it. So now we have a nice crisp piece of fabric that's ready to cut. I'm going to go ahead and iron this in too. This is about probably not even a yard of fabric that I have torn off a much larger piece. I'll move it back over to our cutting tape. Get this stuff out of the way. And move you back over here with me. Not a very good shot. Doing a video is very time consuming. It is now probably getting close to 1 o'clock, and I've been working on this for hours, getting it ready to start. And it just is a production, and when you're doing it by yourself with absolutely no help from anyone, you run into some problems sometimes. Okay, let me move it back just a little bit so you can see the edge here. Alright, got my fabric laid across the bottom edge of my cutting board. I don't have it all the way to the end. I rarely cut on the 0 point of my board. Most of the time I start at the 1. I don't know why. It's just sometimes it's harder to get over to that 0 mark because I have stuff piled up on my cutting table most of the time. I did clean it off for you today, and when Bethany gets back Friday, she'll be shocked. Okay, we're going to cut these at 4 inches. I use the Sewology. I use Sewology whenever possible. That is Hobby Lobby's name brand. That's their store brand. And they run the Sewology on 50% off about every 3 weeks. They have the blades. They have the cutters. the rotary cutters. They have the mats. This mat is $35, but when they run it on sale, it'll be $17.50. And this one is a 36 by 24. It covers my cutting table real well. Doesn't hang off anywhere, and it's just the perfect size for what I do. You can get by with a smaller cutting board, but I do, if you have a place that you can put it, I do recommend the 24 by 36. All right, we've got our one cut. We're going to move down 4 more inches, and we're going to cut again. We're just going to keep moving down, all the way down, every 4 inches. Now, I am not responsible if you cut your fingers off, because this is a round razor blade. And I don't know how my grandmother used to cut out her pieces in her lap with a pair of dressmaker scissors, but she did and made some beautiful quilts. But I recommend the rotary cutter. It does a precise cut. But I have cut myself. I have went to the floor on my knees, and I have grabbed that one didn't cut quite all the way through, so I'm gonna lay it aside until I come across my scissors. I think my scissors are on my sewing machine, which I've got 10,000 pair. And we're going to lay our blocks. It doesn't matter where on your cutting board you're going to lay them. I've got it at the 21. Doesn't matter. You can lay it all the way to the left side of your cutting mat. Start at 0 and do 4 and 8 inch cut, because these are going to be 4 inch squares. But I'm going to put mine in the middle where it's easier to get to. And so I want to lay the folds as close to that 21 inches as I can get it. As close to this particular line, because I want as much to spill over this other end as possible, so I can cut off those nasty selvages. I never cut some people cut their selvages off before they ever start cutting. I do not. I don't do that. So I'm going to start here at the 21 inch. And I'm going to move over to the 17 inch. And I'm going to move over to the 13 inch. I got mine stacked a little thick here, and you do not want to do that. If I had a new blade on my knife, which my cutter, I need to change my blade. If I had a new blade, then I would, it would go through a lot easier. But I need to change that, but I have not. We have 12, 16, 20, we have 40 squares cut, just like that. And those are 4 inches by 4 inches. So we're going to cut our strips at 4 inches, then we're going to lay them the other direction and cut them at 4 inches again, and we have a perfect 4 inch square. And I'm going to pair it. Actually, I've cut the wrong fabric. I wanted to put this fabric with that. So, see there? Already got another quilt started. There's nothing negative about that. We just have another quilt started. And I'm going to pause this for a second while I give this a little iron, and then I'm going to come back and give you a second viewing of how to cut the fabrics. Okay, back again. I was anxious to get that green and turquoise fabric cut up, so I guess that's why I cut the wrong fabric. I'm not going to cut as many this time. I just want to get you started on your blocks. Now the anatomy of a quilt, that wiggled just a little bit there, so I'm going to go back and trim that off. Just a hair. The anatomy of a quilt is the blocks, the strips, the squares, sashing, and some people call it backing. Call the back of the quilt, what you put on the back of the quilt, the backing. I was raised by not by my grandmother, but with my grandmother, call it a lining. So it will be a lining for me my whole life. But you can call it what you want to. Some people say back. If they say backing, they're talking about the back of the quilt. They say lining, they're talking about the back of the quilt. So doesn't matter. Same thing. All right. Now we only have 24, but that's okay to get us started. So we've got our 6 different blocks we're going to do. Obviously I really like that one, but I'm going to try to do, if I'm going to do a queen, I'm going to do 42 squares, 42 quilt blocks. So 3 into 42 is 17 for 2 of, I need 17 blocks out of 2 of them, and 18 out of 1 will be my 42. So let's go over to the machine and let's get these started. Okay, now we're back at the sewing machine. Now we're at the sewing machine. Haven't been here all day. Been trying to get everything else situated and haven't even sewn today. I have a commercial sewing machine, as most of you, a lot of you know. New subscribers may not know that I have a commercial sewing machine. It is a Durkoff Adler. I'm probably saying that wrong. 281. I like this machine because I've been sewing this machine for 2 years. I used to sew with a brother, regular kind of sewing machine that everybody, the kind of sewing most people have. That you can set on a table or you can pick it up easily and take with you. But I sew so much and that I would burn them up. I'd burn the motors up in them, about 5 a year. Now, let me just say that in my shop at this particular moment, there are 4 Brother sewing machines in my shop. I do love Brothers, and I have an embroidery. I have a 6-needle embroidery machine and 2 single-needle embroidery machines, and I have a portable Brother project runway that I like to use if I have to do any kind of zigzag, because this machine only does a straight stitch, and it will go backwards. It cuts its own thread and it winds its own bobbin. So I really love this machine, and I will leave in the comments below. I will leave you the link to where that I bought this machine. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for it, because I'm not going to price another person's product. But in the last 2 years, I have saved probably well, with the small machines I would have bought, I probably have saved $1,000 in the last 2 years. And from now on, it'll be just straight profit every month, every day that I use it, because I've already paid for this machine, well paid for this machine. Okay, let's sort out our squares into the color combinations that we're going to use. And there we have. And let's start with this little green one here. This is awfully pretty. I'm anxious to see a block made up like this. Now, when I did my class the other day, I mentioned how that I like to stay organized, and I'm going to show you how that I do this, and it's completely up to you. Also, let me go back first to your seam allowance. Any other quilting video will tell you a 1/4 inch seam. For a beginner quilter, that is not important. I probably have other quilters out there that's probably doing a little dance, but I will stick by that. Seam allowance is not that important. The only thing that is important is to be consistent. Now, my foot, as you can see, I don't know if you see my foot on my machine or not. Let's see. Let's go back this way a little bit. The foot on my machine is just a small foot. This foot is not interchangeable. This is the foot I have to use on everything. It is probably about 1/4 of an inch from the needle hole to the edge of my foot, but that's how I do my seam allowances. I just run my fabric right along the right side edge of my foot. If your foot is a little bit wider than that, that's fine, but the measurements I will be giving you for the finished block will be based upon my machine. So you need to take that into considerations when I'm talking about any kind of measurements or anything. Is my blocks finished, I've already measured them, finished at 11 inches by 11 inches. So you just need to be mindful of that when I get to that part, and I will get into that more later on. Alright, let's start. We're going to sew 2 together, right sides together, and we're going to chain stitch these, and we're going to continue on right sides together, and we're going to do several of these. And it doesn't matter, I just so happen to have them, you know, going with 1 green one up and 2 down. It doesn't matter at this point how you do that. Just put 2 right sides together and sew them together. And be consistent with your seams. Just a good rule of thumb to use the right side of your foot as a guide. Just keep your fabric right on that right side. They fall off the machine, that's fine. They're all connected. Now, a 9-patch quilt block has 9 squares, hence the name. Has 9 little small squares to make your 9-patch, and that means that there's going to be 4 of one fabric and 5 of your second fabric. I like to leave 1 under my machine needle because it keeps you're less likely for your machine to become unthreaded, and also you have less issues with long strings everywhere. Plus, it also saves fabric. All right, on this one, on this particular, can you see what I'm doing here? On this square, I'm going to add a green one to this side. The next one I pick up, I'm going to add a calico one to this side, still right sides together. And on the next one, I'm going to put a green one next to the calico. I laid this one aside because I did get some selvage in there. I'm going to lay that aside because that will make that square smaller. And I also had a string in my fabric and it's showing up. Okay, now I'm going to go back and cut this last one off here now, so it's just I've got other things out of my machine. Let me scoot this all over so you can see what I got going on here. I have got a perfect 9-patch. Now I'm going to show you how to iron these before we sew the 3 rows together, but for now let's go ahead and do a couple of more. Since I've got this one green, print green, and then it's got 5 squares of green, I'm going to do the next one with 5 squares of this print, and that kind of keeps everything evened out with your fabrics. If you make all of them exactly with the same like this, then you're going to use more green than you are the print. So to kind of balance out your fabrics, stagger them. Make some blocks one direction and one way and the other, and I'll show you that just in a minute. And one more. And now we have 2 9 patches, 2 blocks already almost done, and that went so fast. Lay these aside. I want to run something else under my needle to get this last one off. Like I said, this really saves a lot of thread, and it keeps you from having a stringy project. Keeps your thread at a minimum. I'm talking about the thread that's hanging off the edge. When you just have a little, like